one of the first people to tell you the orgullo and the alegría going on around campus right now for Cuban culture is off the charts. And FEC has held several events on campus this week celebrating everything you can imagine about Cuban culture, from the music and the dancing to the croquetas and also the cafecito, of course.
It is mid-February, and that means Canes baseball is finally back. And just this past weekend, Mark Life Field brought fans back into the stands for the first time in 2023 with their annual alumni game, but tonight they brought fans onto the field for the second annual Student Home Run Derby. And while the casino is known for its poker room and all the concerts that it holds, it's also the headquarters of a sport that many consider to be the fastest ball game in the world. And former University of Miami athletes have been at the forefront of not only making sure the sport survives, but thrives as well. Here's the story of Hialeah.
It basically becomes an extension of their body where their catching hand and their throwing hand essentially become the same thing. And for these athletes, they need to be able to receive the ball with the cesta and then throw it back at speeds at over 150 miles an hour. And what makes FEC so special is that you don't have to be Cuban to be a part of the group. You just have to have an appreciation for what it means to be Cuban. But before Canes baseball had a chance to play a single inning this spring, Mark Life Field welcomed some regular students to the field to participate in the second annual Student Home Run Derby. Hello and welcome to this special presentation of Sports Desk. I'm your host, Daniel Toll. Our first story today takes us back in time, back to the decades of legacy and history that Miami Athletics brought to Coral Gables. But what's a college team without its signature mascot? Daryl Barnes uncovers the origins of Sebastian the Ibis and shares how one Sebastian played a role in rewriting history. Before we talk about FSU, let's talk about FIU. It was a huge midweek win for the Hurricanes earlier this week with a walk-off homer, but it was a game where Gino DeMari had to tap into his bullpen quite a few times in order to sneak out that win. If you've ever swung by Mark Life Field for a baseball game, you'll know the environment is one unlike any other in UM sports. And there's one fluffy guy in orange and green behind it all.
Thanks, Juliet. And now, this is where the fun begins. The long-awaited release of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga finally arrived last week, and fans have been raging about the video game ever since.
It's a trailer and a bike, and he's pulling that whole baby grand piano.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have the trailer, the piano is easier to pull, you know, so it's a little easier.
He's got to be going a bunch of miles, though, at least.
Sebastian the Ibis has been the face of the Miami Hurricanes for almost 70 years. He is the center of attention at football games and basketball games. But when baseball season rolls around, a different mascot dons the orange and green to cheer on the Canes. Meet the Miami Maniac, a signature of Canes baseball that debuted in 1982 after one man decided to take his mascot skills to Coral Gables.
I got started really in 1981 when, as Cocky, the mascot of the University of South Carolina, I was invited to work the College World Series. Met Coach Frazier and all of the people with the team. He wanted to create his own mascot. He said, if South Carolina can have one, why don't we have one?
The Maniac was introduced as part of head coach Ron Frazier's vision to bring the Mark Light Field experience to life. But by the time the Maniac began to make a name for himself, Sebastian was already the star of the show.
Sebastian's the tougher character, the football guy, and there's always got to be the winner. The Maniac's kind of a lovable loser character. You know, he might mess around with the girls in the stands a little bit, but, you know, he's going to go home alone, you know.
And for one former Maniac, the differences between the two mascots are exactly what makes the Maniac so special.
Those type of fun, zany characters, people can get behind. You know, they mess with you, grab your hat, something like that. It's still, you know, something that's a little bit more fun.
But for all of the Maniac's antics and pranks, wearing the costume can also have a more heartfelt purpose.
My mom likes to tell a story that she went and watched a baseball game one time. She heard a little kid go like, "Maniac, you're my best friend." That's really what the point of the Maniac is. So I think like making kids smile, making everything a little bit more of a light environment, I think is really what the Maniac does best.
Whether it's through making a kid's day or showing off some dance moves, Canes fans need little time to grow to love the Maniac.
The Maniac's crazy. He's out of control. We love him. You'll see him running around the field with his shirt off. You'll see him twerking on the camera.
Miami fans can catch the Maniac dancing again at Mark Life Field next Tuesday when the Hurricanes take on Bethune-Cookman. Reporting for UMTV, I'm Daniel Toll. The Maddox City Casino Fronton is the world headquarters for the fast-paced Spanish sport of Hialeah. 31 players compete professionally at the Fronton, but there was once a time when the casino scrambled to find just one player. That led the casino to turn to former University of Miami athletes as candidates to play.
So my story, around November 2017, I got my first email.
And I looked at it and like everybody else thought, it was a spam mail. So I ignored it.
At first I didn't believe it was real, of course. I was like, no way, this is a thing.
And for these former Canes who never played a game of professional highlight before, this new opportunity came with some culture shock.
I was kind of like hesitant about it all. Like I was, being skeptical. Until we, saw the court for the first time. It was like, really eye-opening experience.
But Magic City Casino did not just task these athletes with learning how to play highlight, they also tasked them with saving the sport from extinction. Today, Magic City is the only front-end left in the US, and the Miami-made highlight players are using the U to keep the sport alive.
Magic City found us, and they know that Canes, everybody has swagger. So that's the way that we're revamping this sport.
The Magic City front-end may be the last one standing in the country, but the sport is far from dead. Magic City Highlight rebranded to the World Highlight League last year and signed a multi-year deal with ESPN. Reporting for UMTV, I'm Daniel Toll.
The heartbeat of Cuban culture is one that pulses all over Miami. And at the University of Miami, the Federación de Estudiantes Cubanos, also known as FEC, is a student organization responsible for making sure that Cuban culture continues to expand its reach.
Miami is a city that was so much built on the backs of Cubans, built by Cubans, that I think it's important that we all do have a Cuban connection on this campus, whether we realize it or not, and we want to remind people of that while they're here.
One of the many ways that FEC seeks to do this is through its annual Week of Cuban Culture celebration. This year's slate of events featured daily activities highlighting the hallmarks of the Cuban experience. Students were able to learn some Cuban slang, paint their own dominoes, and indulge in the food, the cafecito, and the music.
Like one of the little tabling events they had, I think the Monday they had a couple of guys playing a sort of band. That was really cool. They had free food, which was great.
As much as FEC's Week of Cuban Culture is about celebrating Cuban culture, it's also about taking it all in and making it part of your own culture. And what makes FEC so special is that you don't have to be Cuban to be a part of the group. You just have to have an appreciation for what it means to be Cuban.
That is the case for Hugo Mijares Bracho, a Venezuelan who found his home on campus through FEC.
So once someone gets involved in FEC, we truly are like a familia on campus. So regardless of being Cuban or not, this is definitely something that everyone can enjoy.
Reporting for UMTV, I'm Daniel Toll.
Santa Mauro Drive was the place to be for Canes baseball fans last weekend. From Fan Fest to the annual alumni game, there was entertainment for everyone to enjoy before the Hurricanes' opening night versus Penn State. But before Canes baseball had a chance to play a single inning this spring, Mark Life Field welcomed some regular students to the field to participate in the second annual Student Home Run Derby. The Canes baseball experience was on full display Monday night for the Student Derby. The event featured the return of Miami's signature milkshake stand, as well as appearances from the Miami Maniac and Sebastian the Ibis. And once the Derby began, student sluggers of all experience levels had a chance to step up to the plate and create some Mark Light magic.
You don't have to be good at baseball, you can be horrible, you can be great, you can be right in the middle, don't matter what your skill level is, you can come out here and just have a good time.
While the Student Derby was meant for everyone, a few of the contestants were on the UM Club baseball team. And for them, the Derby was more than enough reason to have some friendly competition.
We compete on everything. We compete on who can throw a baseball close to the bucket. We compete on who gets to practice last or first. Every single thing we do is a competition. So coming out here, getting some swings, is definitely a good competition.
I thought it'd be a great event to come out to, and I brought the trophy home. That's all that matters.
Mark and Joe came into the Derby with a purpose and left with some prizes after their performances. Mark won a baseball signed by the Hurricanes, and Joe took home a jersey and won the chance to throw out the first pitch at an upcoming game. Reporting for UMTV, I'm Daniel Toll.